There we go. All right, so week 2, did everybody watch the video? I hope so. This one was a little bit longer. Let's see. A couple more people are joining. There we go. Hi, Maddie. Okay, so I got a bunch of questions for this week, and I have a screen to my right. I put them all here. So I'll be kind of looking back and forth and looking at the questions. And then as we go through each question, definitely if anything comes up, please speak up and unmute yourself, and I'll be happy to address it. So let's see, the first question I got, what are the best foods to eat to boost immunity? So I kind of touched on this last week about foods that are really good for cognitive function, and those foods are very similar. So obviously foods that are really high in vitamin C, like kiwis and bell peppers, strawberries are actually really high in vitamin C, and Brussels sprouts, kale. So there's actually a really large list of vitamin C rich foods other than just oranges, which are a good source too. So those are some good foods to focus on to help boost your immune system. And also foods that are really high in zinc, because zinc is really helpful to fight infections. And zinc foods would be like lentils and pumpkin seeds. Oysters are high in zinc, and a lot of like lentils and legumes. And then of course, foods really high in antioxidants like the blueberries and pomegranates and raspberries. So anything really dark in color are really good for your immune system. So, oh, and of course, ginger and garlic and those really important antiviral herbs and veggies and things like that. So any questions about immune system and foods? No. All right. So the next question I got, why are flax seeds a separate food group, and why should we include these every day? So in my video, I spoke about kind of like 10 food groups that I would like for everybody to get in their diet or strive to every day. And I list flax seeds as a separate group. And that's because flax seeds, they're really high in these polyphenols or compounds in plants. Polyphenols, that's what they are. They're called lignans. And lignans have been shown to really reduce inflammation and be really protective of different types of cancer. And flax seeds are one of the highest sources of lignans. So I incorporate flax seeds almost every day. I usually get them in my smoothies, and if I don't make a smoothie, I'll add them to my oatmeal, or you can kind of bake with flax seeds too and make muffins or breads. And you can also like make ground up the flax seeds and put them on salads or any type of like veggie bowl. So that's a good way to get flax seeds in. Let me let in Sheila here. So flax seeds are also really high in omega-3s. And I'm glad this person asked this question because as Americans, we get too much omega-6 fats. So there's omega-3 and omega-6 essential fatty acids. And our body likes to have these fats at a certain ratio. And we consume, or most people consume on the standard American diet, a lot of oils and processed foods, and a lot of the oils in processed foods. And when you go out to eat, they're typically like soybean and corn and canola. And those are oils that are really high in omega-6 fats. So it totally throws off our ratio. And we do need a little bit of those omega-6 fats, but not as much as we're getting. So Americans eat about 10 times, they get 10 times more omega-6 than we're supposed to. So our omega-3s are really low. So sticking to foods that are really high in omega-3s, like flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds and edamame, broccoli and Brussels sprouts and sesame seeds, those are all foods that are really high in omega-3s, and they're very anti-inflammatory and cardioprotective. So that's why I think flax seeds are so important. They're one of the highest foods in lignans, which are reducing the inflammation, cardioprotective, and very anti-cancer. So any questions on omega-3s, omega-6, and flax seeds?
How many or how much flaxseed per day?
Yeah, so I would say about like a tablespoon is a great place to start. Sometimes I'll add 2 tablespoons, but 1 tablespoon is plenty to get the good benefits from that.
Okay.
Anything else about flax seeds? All right. So the next question is, can you talk about fermented foods? So after I recorded the video, I should have spoke of fermented foods because they are really good for our gut health. Fermented foods such as tempeh, which is made from soybeans. It's fermented soybeans. So tempeh is fermented. It's really good for you. Kimchi and sauerkraut. So you can make those foods at home, but if you go to the store and look to buy kimchi or sauerkraut, I would make sure that it's like a raw product, meaning that they don't add any like vinegars or anything to make it taste like it's fermented, but it's actually fermented. So when you go to buy sauerkraut at the store, like turn the label over and look to see if they add like vinegar in it, or if it's just like the cabbage, salt, and the spices. So miso is also fermented, and kombucha. So those are all some fermented foods that I try to eat a couple times a week. And if you're not used to eating fermented foods, I would recommend starting really slow. So with kombucha, for example, having like a quarter cup or a quarter of the bottle a day, or a quarter bottle a couple times a week, and kind of see how you feel, or just like a few scoops of sauerkraut. So I definitely recommend incorporating some fermented foods and see how your body responds to it. All right, next question. Please talk about sunflower oil. Is it good? Is it bad? So that kind of goes right along with the talk about the omega-3 and omega-6. So sunflower oil is higher in omega-6. So sunflower seeds are higher in omega-6. They do have some omega-3s, but I would recommend, if you're looking at products that have sunflower oil in it, I think that's where you get the most of, that's where you consume most sunflower oil, is in like roasted like nuts or seeds, or it's in some salad dressing, sunflower oil. I've seen it in like hummus or some dips. So, I mean, if you focus more on the foods that are higher in omega-3s, like the flax and chia and hemp, once in a while, getting a product that has sunflower oil, I think it's okay in moderation. I wouldn't say like it's a good like anti-inflammatory oil. So I sometimes buy foods that have it in it, but I try to stick to more of a like olive oil. I look for olive oil or like avocado oil in products. So any questions so far? Okay. Next question. Let's see. Natural flavors, are they always considered bad? So natural flavors are in so many products. If you're not eating whole foods, you're bound to see natural flavors in your coffee creamer or even cereals or oatmeal. So natural flavors, what they are, they are like artificial, although they're not labeled as artificial on the label. The natural flavors, it means that they're derived from substances that are natural, so either from plants or animals. And under that ingredient label, natural flavors, when you see it on the label, it could also include up to like 100 different ingredients just under that one label. So it could just be a natural, it could be actual like vanilla extract or a flavoring from vanilla extract, but it also could be something totally different and then other chemicals added into it. So again, it's really hard to avoid natural flavors completely. So, do your best to pick and choose, the products that you do use that have the natural flavors in it. So, yeah. And also a lot of those chemicals that are in natural flavors, I listed some of them in the handout, the kitchen clean out handout. There's a list of different like preservatives and emulsifiers and things like that to look out for. So a lot of those preservatives can be in the natural flavor label. So you could be getting more than what you think. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So that's the deal with natural flavors. So artificial flavors would be anything that is made in a lab. So it's synthetic. And I would definitely avoid the artificial flavors because you don't know at all what's in that. And a good resource if you're really into like the ingredients and really want to dive deeper into natural flavors and artificial flavors and all the chemicals and what are they exactly, because the government, the FDA, approves hundreds and hundreds of chemicals and additives in our food products, and they kind of label it as GRAS, or generally regarded as safe, meaning if you consume a product that has let's say, you'll see a lot on products that BHT is a preservative. And so if you have that food with that preservative in it, you're not going to have any adverse health effects consuming it once. But so many people consume all of these foods on a daily basis with like every meal, like all the processed foods. That's like the standard American diet. So we don't know what toll that takes on the body over time in large quantities. So that's the whole idea around like how important it is to look at the ingredients and make sure that you're not having foods that have all those synthetic and emulsifiers and things like that. So make sure you look at that one handout I emailed on Monday, the kitchen clean out handout. And then the good resource was the Food Babe. Her name is Bonnie Hari, and she does a lot of lobbying with the big like Kraft and Heinz and those big companies that try to help them or tell them that they need to get rid of all of this crap that's in the food that the majority of the population does eat. So she has a good Instagram and a good blog. So check her content out. And she has a book called Feeding You Lies, and it's a good book. So
I have a quick question
Yeah.
on ingredient. I keep hearing about Red 40, and I don't know if you can touch on that or not, but yeah, I've heard that it's been like banned in basically every country besides the US and like one other country.
So Red 40 there's Red 40. These are all artificial colors or flavors. Red 40 is been studied to have, it's really neuro exciting. I forget the exact term for it, but it makes especially for kids and ADHD, it's connected to ADHD and kind of hyperactivity in the brain. And it also acts as like a free radical in the body. So it's really damaging, and it is in a lot of foods and a lot of candies. And it's a biggie, I think, for kids, especially to kind of stay away from a lot of those dyes and like all the colored, like that's right. A lot of the colors in other countries, like I know the EU, they banned a lot of those because of all the research that's gone into it. And so I would try to stay away from those. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So next question, do Sea Island peas count as beans? They are a variety of black-eyed peas and the only legume so far I eat without adverse reactions. So yes, they are considered beans, and beans are legumes. So there would be a complete, well, I don't know if Sea Island peas, because these are grown here, right, Tracy? Aren't these grown in South Carolina and Charleston?
Yes, they are. They're on Jones Island. They are a variety of black-eyed pea, and
Yeah.
like beans, you have to soak them before you cook them.
Mm-hmm. So you get them like pre-cooked, right?
No, I get them. I get them raw,
Or
shelled.
raw, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then I soak them overnight, and then I cook them the next day.
Okay. Yeah, so those would be, they would count as beans, yeah. And I'm pretty sure if they're a variety of peas that they would be a complete protein, meaning they have all of the amino acids, all 9 essential amino acids, just like how animal protein has all 9 essential amino acids. Peas do too. So I haven't tried those yet, but I should
They're really
check them
good.
out. Yeah, I do use just green peas. I stock my freezer with those because I like to add frozen green peas to like stir fries or pastas or like quinoa dishes because it ups the protein content, and they're really good too. So, and you can buy them frozen, so it just adds another plant to your dish when you're cooking. So, yeah, so don't be afraid to get like frozen veggies and fruits. Yeah, I definitely use those in my cooking too. So any tips for slowing down and eating mindfully when hungry? I tend to raid the fridge and pantry, taking bites of this and that, rather than sitting down to a plate when hungry and end up overeating and not feeling satisfied. I totally get that. That happens to us all. And what I try to do, like if I have leftovers in my fridge or a couple different snacks, I try to take it all out or take a couple snacks out and try to make like a plate of it, or just pick one, put it on a plate, and then like try to sit down instead of standing and like having a bite of this and that. I know that probably seems obvious, but that I think would really help. And then to keep you from being so ravenous, maybe carry some snacks with you. I know you're probably coming home from work or something like that. So I would try to focus on like sitting down with your snacks even when you're really hungry. So hopefully that will help. Okay, what are your thoughts on adding unflavored protein powder to smoothies? Is it better to get the nutrition from whole foods versus powders? Example, brand Vital Proteins. So this is a really great topic, and I'm glad you asked this. So protein powders in general, I would say would be best to avoid, especially the ones that you grab from the store, mainly because protein powders, they're concentrated protein, and they can be very contaminated, and these companies aren't releasing what's called a COA or a certificate of analysis, which is the way the companies test for heavy metals, for molds, for other contaminants in the product. And many of these companies don't release these COAs to the public. And even if you call and ask, they'll say it's proprietary information, which is not right, because you're the one buying the product and consuming it every day. And you want to know if there's unsafe levels of mercury or lead or aluminum or cadmium in the product. So when you're having protein powders, typically people do use protein powders like on a daily basis. And that's kind of scary to think if you're having something that has unsafe levels of lead and you're consuming that every day for like months or years or whatnot, like that totally adds up in your body. And these heavy metals are really hard to get out of your body. And they're very neurotoxic. So the Vital Proteins brand, I know that their products aren't the cleanest. They don't release their testing. So I know this because I listened to a podcast by Dr. Christian Gonzalez, and he's an oncologist in California, and he started a podcast. Doesn't work in oncology anymore, but just wants to spread the word on really like environmental medicine and just really informing the public on like what to look out for. And so he called a bunch of companies, like the top companies, like the Whole Foods protein powders. He called the Vital Proteins brand. He called the Orgain, which you can get at Costco and a lot of different stores, and like a ton of other products. So he called them and asked for their certificate of analysis, their COA, and many of them said that they wouldn't release it. And the companies that, most of them that did release it, they had unsafe levels of lead. So I would really watch out for that. And it's something you don't think of. You look at a product, it says organic, it says non-GMO, it says it has this and that, it has superfoods in it, but you really got to be careful because there's a whole nother kind of side to that. I do use some protein powders. I have like access to professional brands, and I've vetted those. So there's a time and a place for certain protein powders. I would definitely recommend knowing your source. And if you want a recommendation, I can talk with you and we can figure that out. But I would say for the most part, if you're adding like in your smoothie, like a cup of fruit, a handful of greens, if you're adding some of those seeds that we talked about, the flax and chia and hemp, you could see how full you are from that. If not, you could tweak it, maybe add some like avocado or some other nuts and seeds, and see how full that keeps you. And yeah, I hope that answered your question. And I would look at his podcast. It's called Heal Thyself. He does product reviews on all sorts of different things. So it's definitely a favorite one of mine, because he's really into the research, and he stands up for everybody that's really health conscious, but there's a whole nother side to look at.
Can I ask a question on that?
Mm-hmm.
So besides adding like fruit and avocado, I think the smoothie that we have.
Yeah.
What else could you substitute? Like I'm thinking maybe a combination of chia seeds and hemp seeds to make up for, like, if we start taking out the powder.
Yeah. So I know you use the Designs for Health powder, and that one's pretty clean. I mean, it's nearly impossible to manufacture a protein powder with 0 heavy metals, because how they source the protein, and that's a concentrated. So it's really hard to have 0 heavy metals in these powders. Designs for Health, orthomolecular, those are all pretty, they pass the test basically. And so to answer your question, so you're adding like a tablespoon of, what was it exactly?
Well, I was just wondering, like, to remove the powder, what could we substitute? Not necessarily for protein, because I don't think it's that important, but just to make it more filling and to make my husband full.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could I would add like a tablespoon of chia, a tablespoon of hemp, a tablespoon of flax, and then you could add like a cup and a half, because I know he's like what, almost like 200, kind of like 180.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
he's
for like
210.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you could add like a cup and a half of fruit, and then definitely load it with like greens, or maybe add different types of veggies, maybe like half a cucumber or some frozen cauliflower. I know I mentioned like the last call is a good idea. Or just go in like the frozen veggie section in the grocery store and see what kind of like organic veggies that they have that would not change the taste too much, but like, and sometimes to mask the taste of all the veggies in a smoothie, I'll add like 1 date, and that makes it taste really good. And dates are actually really high in fiber, and add like a perfect amount of sweetness.
Perfect.
So, yeah, or like a handful of pumpkin seeds I'll add. That's really
Oh,
good.
that's good too. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, some seeds. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Can you talk a little bit about the spirulina in the smoothies?
Yeah. So spirulina is a blue-green algae powder. It's and you only need, when you're using it, you only need like a teaspoon. And it's considered nature's multivitamin. That's kind of how they market it, but it is a really great source of lots of different vitamins and minerals. It's really high in B vitamins, and it has 4 grams of protein per, I think, teaspoon, which is a lot for just like a little bit. And it has a lot of other like vitamins and minerals, and it has like selenium in it and iron. It's a good source of iron. So I think that's a great additive to like smoothies, or what else could you add it in? I've seen recipes call for it with like oatmeal, but it definitely it's really green. It's like a bright green, so it'll change the color. So I don't know if you have kids, I don't think they would like it. But yeah, spirulina, I love it. It's a great kind of food to add. Also with that though, the quality definitely matters. So I like to get the Hawaiian spirulina. It's really pure. So it's like what size container? I think it's about like 8 ounces, or 6 or 8 ounce jars, like $15. And that might seem expensive, but it lasts a while. And these like algaes and like other things like essential oils, and so they're not supposed to be really cheap because they're hard to make. And when you're looking for purity, it's hard to get a pure product. So I definitely recommend making sure that you have a good, clean product. So I like the Hawaiian spirulina.
Is there anything that we can like look for? Like, because I mean, I guess I've already been using a bag, and I honestly don't know off the top of my head what brand it is. Luckily, I'm almost to the bottom of it, so I'll definitely look for the Hawaiian one.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be consuming that in the powder form. So to be adding that, like now I'm all worried about like the lead and
Oh
stuff.
no.
Powder.
Yeah, no, it's spirulina is totally fine to consume in powder form. In fact, I think it's one of the only forms you can consume it. You can get tablets. But I've never seen spirulina algae like at the grocery store in a package, or I don't even know where you would get that. So yeah, you only can get it in powder form. And I think you should really look at Dr. Christian Gonzalez's page, because he'll kind of help you figure out, you know, what's the best product, and help you clean out that way, clean out your smoothie cabinet that way. All right, let's see. So another question I got was about fasting. So is fasting healthy and good for everybody? So I think fasting is a great tool. I personally do what's called like circadian fasting. So when you stop eating when the sun goes down and you start eating when the sun comes up, like give or take a little bit. Sometimes I'll even extend the fast a little bit longer in the morning. So why fasting is so good is because it's the only time that your body is really at rest. I mean, it's not focusing on digestion. So it has a chance to really clean house and get rid of damaged cells and damaged DNA. And your liver's working really hard to kind of clear out everything that was exposed to during the day and really catch up on metabolic processes. And it goes through a process called autophagy, which is cell death, which is good. We want any damaged cells we want to get rid of any damaged cells. So when we're fasting, our body can really go into this repair mode and get rid of damaged cells so they don't cause damage to other cells. So they'll become like a free radical and bounce around our body and hit other cells and then damage those. And it just becomes a crazy mess. So when you're fasting, and really overnight, everybody naturally fasts, but you can kind of extend that a little bit on either end, just to get more benefits from that. When you're fasting, your body goes into repair mode. So fasting is a really great tool to use. And the one thing I tell clients to make sure they're not fasting too long in the morning, especially for women, and hormone balance and blood sugar fluctuations and all that. So I would, make sure you eat something around 10 to 11, give or take. I mean, everyone's different with their goals and where they're at, and if they have diabetes, if they don't. So I would definitely talk with somebody about it if you're real serious about doing maybe even long-term fasting, but it's a great tool to use for your health. Any questions about fasting or the smoothies that we're talking about?
And so you adjust like the sun up, sundown for like even when we are like here in wintertime where the sun goes down earlier, obviously.
Yeah, so in that case, I mean, sun goes down what, at like 5:30, almost 6 now, right? So I try to stop eating around like 6:30. By the time I like finish work, I start eating dinner. But I really try not to eat after like 7 or 8. Yeah. So then when you stop eating at 7, a 12-hour fast would be till 7 a.m. So you can see how you feel. You can push that to 8 or 9 and see how you feel. Anybody else? I don't have any more questions that were submitted. So anything that is coming up right now?
Yeah, I have a question. Sorry, I'm in the car. Do you or have you ever like used an app to like, I don't want to track calories. Like I'm pretty anti tracking calories, but like just to like fulfill like the daily protein or like the fiber or something, like I feel like I don't have like good enough knowledge to fill or like what even falls into each category. So like I feel like an app would like help me like learn the categories, but then to also just stay on track.
Yeah, so you could use an app. I like my Fitness Pal, they do protein, carbs, fat. I don't know if they do like micronutrients and fiber and all that. I like the app. They do. Someone's saying yes. So they do. I like the app Chronometer, CRONO meter. It's just tedious punching in everything, so I would recommend, I'm not sure if I emailed, I think since we've worked together in the past, I feel like I've emailed you like my plant-based protein handout and like a high fiber handout. So maybe just kind of like read over that again and try to get those foods in your head. And even, I don't know if this is too much to do, but I do it because I think about food all the time. That's what I love. When I'm eating something, I'm like, oh, I wonder how much protein's in these walnuts. So then I'll just Google how much protein in walnuts, and then I just have like that's in my bank now. Like when or if you're out to dinner and eating something and you're wondering, just look it up. It's just like when you're reading a book and you come across a word that you don't know. It's recommended to just look it up so you know that, right? So maybe do a little bit of like research in that way, and you could try the app thing and see if it works for you. But I've tried that and it doesn't, I can't do it. It's too hard for me to punch it in every time. But
my Fitness Pal makes it pretty easy. If it's something in a package, you can just scan it and you don't have to enter everything. If you do enter everything, it'll keep it. So like if it's something you eat every day or every other day, you don't have to enter it in except once.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But also to find the micronutrients, you do have to click, like it has the fiber and fat and protein easy, but then you have to click on a different thing to find like your daily total of some of the micronutrients.
Oh, okay.
It's called, it's nutrition, but it's under like my recipes or something. It's weird. You have to kind of hunt for it.
Yeah, I've also found it helpful when I was tracking using Chronometer or MyFitnessPal, doing it on my computer. So logging in that way, because I just can't do it on my phone. I have to have a bigger screen. So maybe that's more helpful too, like every night or in the morning whenever you have time to kind of punch it all in then. But I like doing it on my computer. And it syncs with your phone. So you use the same like login.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't even think I would be as tedious to, track every little thing, but I feel like those big things that, I would, incorporate into a weekly grocery list or something. I guess it's just me, learning like what you said, like what those big ticket items are. I should just,
Mm-hmm.
kind of learn about those anyways, but thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. All right, anybody else?
I did have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
I
Sharon.
just have a quick question about the essential oils we've talked about in a therapeutic or ingestible grade. I've had a hard time when I've looked for them saying you can eat them.
Mm-hmm.
Just a name brand.
Yes, so there's really only a couple. The Young Living and doTERRA are therapeutic.
doTERRA is too. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reason why you want to be careful with essential oils and you want to avoid like the super cheap ones off Amazon is the way that they extract the oils.
Right.
And they use hexane, which is a petroleum-based product or oil. Like the way they extract it can be really contaminate the oil, and then you're ingesting it or breathing it in. It can be very toxic. So
okay,
I definitely think it's worth getting a brand that is safe. Dr. Gonzalez does a whole podcast on essential oils and which ones are to look out for, and he recommends the Young Living or the doTERRA. I know those are multi-level companies, but they make really good essential oils, and I think you can get them from, I've seen them on Amazon, or I can help you get them too.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have a question, Allie?
Oh, yes. So I know earlier we were talking about vitamin C. I know that vitamin D has kind of been in the arena of like consuming that in like a pill form, especially obviously during these winter months when it's harder to get it. Charleston's been a little wet and dreary here lately too as well. Yeah. So I just didn't know if you could speak to like, if you do take it in a pill form, like, is it going to be beneficial, or no, you just really need to try to get outside?
Yeah, so taking it in pill form is definitely beneficial. It'll definitely get your levels up. I've seen that with a lot of different clients supplementing with vitamin D when their vitamin D is low and then retesting it's up. Of course, going out in the sun helps, but you can only your body can convert vitamin D through with certain hours of the day. So between like 10 and 2, it's the angle of the sun hitting your skin. And then you can't have anything, like it can't go through clothes, it can't go through sunscreen, obviously. So it's really picky. Your body's picky with how it gets vitamin D from the sun. And then it's actually converted to the active form in your liver. So having good liver function is good for proper vitamin D as well. So supplementing is a good idea for most people because most people are deficient because we're not outside as much. And on like cloudy days, rainy days, we're not getting that full exposure. It's blocked a little bit. So vitamin D tests are relatively like inexpensive. Like you could get one for like $60, or you can go to your doctor and maybe insurance will cover it. But the range for vitamin D, like a conventional medicine range would be, I think it's between like 25 and 70, which is considered normal, even if you're at like 27. but optimal levels, I would say, are above. I would love it at like 60 or 70. Like that's where really good immune function is. That's where good mood is. And so I think it's worth testing, because then you don't even need to supplement if you're not on that low end. But vitamin D supplementation is really cheap too. So you could do like 1 to 5,000 IUs a day, depending on like how low you are.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, anybody else? No questions? All right, we're just about on time too. So if anything else pops up, you can just write it in the Facebook group or email me. And next week's all about liver health. So I'm really excited to share everything I know about that. So yeah, everyone have a good night, and I'll see you on next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abby.
Welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.